Hope all of you had good lunch. And this session is, as my colleague just told you about, is all about technology. Real estate is no longer just about buildings and physical infrastructure. Technology is increasingly becoming a key differentiator across the value chain. So right from the design stage all the way to sort of, governance and so on and so forth. Developers, of course, are embracing PropTech, AI, and automation to improve project execution, to reduce costs, and of course, to enhance the customer experience. And beyond construction, technologies like, for example, blockchain can solve a lot of long-standing problems for the sector. And that is what this session is going to be focused on. Thank you so much, Garvit, for joining us here. Thank you so much, Mr. Aggarwal, for being here. My first question for you, Garvit, in terms of the role technology can play, because real estate so far has all been about location, 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 right? And now there are more things which are becoming important. And in this context, we are, of course, talking about technology. So what role at this point in time do you see technology playing in real estate?
First and foremost, thank you for inviting me. And, just to introduce, I'm actually a partner with Thornton. I specialize into the data engineering, management, AI analytics, and digital transformation side of things. I bring to the table experience across the entire facets of technology, right from data to how to manage it and how to, kind of use it as an asset across different clients, including real estate and, of course, BFSI and technology, telecom, etc., FMCG as well. Technology as such cannot be embraced as a single entity. It's like a horizontal across things. And in real estate, if I can look at, it basically shows itself across 4 areas. And I label it as PCOS. It's like, of course, it's not the PCOS that we talk about. It is the other PCOS that we have in real estate. First is planning. It helps us to kind of plan in a predictive manner. Whether you embrace data, whether you use AI, whether you're going predictive edge, it is about planning in that different estates. You can plan about your model, you can plan about your site, you can plan about your location, construction, optimize, etc. Then comes the actual construction. So in your construction, what kind of materials you can use, how you can predict which is, how can you optimize your labor, what's the predictive side of things in the actual construction realm of business, that comes in. Then comes the operations, because in the actual, when the rubber hits the road, what really happens is really important. So you have to think in those lines how technology can help you, whether be it blockchain, whether be it AI, or even the foundation, which we now know, as one of the key pillars in the real estate. So real estate is no more about just construction. The 4th pillar that I see there is technology and how to use it. And of course, when I say S, it is about standardization, making sure that you are running across from the sales to the actual, making things happen. That's where technology comes into play.
So it's multiple areas of application, sure.
Absolutely.
Vivek, I'd like you to come in. The success of a project, to what extent would you say at this point in time is dependent on how successfully a developer has used technology across the value chain?
Yeah, Abhishek. So let me introduce me and Square Yard. So I am Vivek. I am co-founder of Square Yards. We are one of the largest PropTech platform in the country. And our span of services includes transactions, mortgage, interiors, rental, property management. So we cover the entire real estate value chain, except the construction part. So we don't construct, but we act as sales partners for most of the developers. So I'll talk mostly about I'll focus more on the sales and marketing part because that's where our expertise lie. And I've seen developers moving up the value chain in this aspect, like they are using various marketing channels, various marketing automation techniques. In the sales front, I see they still lag, right? Most of the developers, they have been trying to use CRMs, but they have not been being able to effectively use CRMs. If you go to a site visit for a developer, right, the use of technology there is still minimal. Some of those developers are using AR/VR solutions. Some have technology solutions to manage their entire customer experience from at the point of sales, but Still, I would say uh, technology has not penetrated real estate sales as such, as it has disrupted other industries. And the reasons are multifold, because real estate is mostly a touch and feel product. It's an emotional purchase. People would like to see, visit, talk to people, talk to experts, and then take a decision. So there's a lot of human touch already involved in this, and it's the biggest purchase of your life. So if I compare it to other industries like e-commerce or any other industries, I think real estate is still a laggard, but there's a lot of scope to grow. Real estate as a product, it's still under digitized, I would say. And it is still, the industry is still opaque. It is still mired in legally mired playground. It is still illiquid. So technology can play a lot of role in these areas. Some of these you mentioned, blockchain and AI going forward. So I would say that we are still in the early cycles
Sure.
of real estate technology and how it's going to impact not only developers but across the ecosystem.
Right. Garvit, let me ask you that question as well, because sure, okay, it still remains, the look, touch, feel, smell kind of a space, because people would like to see, and these are big ticket investments, right? Cross and cross of money, and it's an important decision. So while maybe technology perhaps is not playing as big a role there, but for example, to bring down the, let's say, the time period within which a developer can complete a project, that could be one application of technology which perhaps could come in and could be one area. Are there other areas that you can think of where it could have a big impact?
See, that's what I was telling in the start itself. I've actually led big time digital projects for clients outside India as well. And there, the embrace of technology is really big. I mean, I'm talking about Canada, where the whole modus operandi of selling and buying is a very different game. There, you have a dedicated body from the government who helps you transact across parcels. And that's where I've kind of worked and digitized that entire journey. I've worked in Middle East as well, where we have helped construction companies to kind of understand how they can first bring in the technology. Because, you know, what happens, and Abhishek, right? So basically, you know, what really happens, Abhishek, is when you kind of sit down with your client, you understand that there are a plethora of opportunities where things can happen. I agree totally that, you know, in India it's selective, but then there are different areas beyond the, you know, I would say on ground construction where you can apply these technologies. So things like when I said you're trying to do, let's say for a building, you're trying to, people think that the easiest way is to do a CAD drawing and maybe upload a 3D model. But then a 3D model, how you can simulate and have that entry into your digital dashboards,
Right.
where the, you know, the client or the organization can see in one go what's happening across different areas. That is one area. Supposing there's a building where you have a lot of tenants, they're like commercial space where tenants come and go. So entire tenant analytics, how your building was kind of used and how it kind of, kind of used people not only from the tenants commercial side, but how it was working across an entire ecosystem. So you can actually think of so many ways in which you can bring the digitization. And like I said, it's about the data. The data should be clean. So like we always said, data is the new breath. I think it's the new, kind of working in and out of the real estate. It is actually the breather for real estate. So it's got a lot of opportunities where you can bring it.
Before we discuss, if developers at this stage should start seriously thinking about big investments as far as various technologies are concerned, let me ask you this, based on your experience, because you said you've worked abroad as well, right? So let's take a market like Dubai, right? And what's done there, the adoption of technology that has been smoother and perhaps, to a greater extent than what you see in India. Why is that the case? Why India is a laggard?
Okay, maybe I'll go on that. The thing is that in India, people have digitized their CRM, they have digitized their finance, but they don't believe in digitizing their entire real estate thing, because the mindset is that I'll go and purchase something based on my knowledge and my so-called, analysis that I've done over internet and stuff. But when actually it comes down to the real understanding of the data and the real analytics around it, people have not really got into the area where they know about things. So I think there is a lack of literacy, there's a lack of understanding, and somebody has to go there and consult and tell them that, boss, these are the opportunities where you can actually bring in technology. So I think that education gap and knowing, with growing with a mindset that, okay, real estate mein to AI kahan hi chahiye, nahi chahiye mujhe. But that is where, the breakthrough happens. Organizations like us at GT, we come and help clients to understand where exactly AI can fit in, where exactly IoT can fit in, where exactly blockchain can be developed. So, and it's also about creating the bespoke solutions, Abhishek. You cannot have a one-size-fit-all kind of thing for real estate in technology. You have to think from client to client, from organization to organization, where all it can cover.
Right.
Abhishek, just to add to that, since you asked about Dubai, so we work in Dubai market also. We have a extensive presence there. So specifically on a few examples of Dubai. So in Dubai, the government, the Dubai Land Department, they have institutionalized something called as VARA, which is a blockchain registry of virtual assets. So you can actually break down a real estate into individual pieces, and then you register. So there is a regulation around blockchain, and then the sales are happening through blockchain. So if you have heard of a company called Pripco, it's a Damak-owned company. They are doing transactions on blockchain, and it's a government authorized registry. Look at India. In India, the registration process is very tedious. Most of you who have gone to a tehsil to do a registry, you would know, right? The records are still not transparent. Nobody knows. Like in your neighborhood, you will not know what are the transaction prices going on, what is the A component, what is the B component. So there are a lot of things. The government itself is not bringing a regulation to bring the transparency in the real estate, and that's a very big bottleneck. You look at developers, right? Developers, when they launch the projects, like, they don't want to bring the transparency that how much of the inventory is sold, right? Because they would tell the customers that ये तो पूरा बिक चुका है, last 2 units बची हैं, right? So that kind of trust and transparency is missing in Indian real estate, which is present in developed markets. In US or Canada, for example, there is a MLS, a multi-listing system, where any inventory which comes online has to first registered into a MLS, and a proof of authenticity of that listing is verified. In India, everyone can list any property, right? If you go to any property platform, you would find fake listings. So those are the issues that as an industry we are facing, and that's why I said that still very early days, because there's a lot of regulations, especially after RERA. Regulations are coming into place where things are being standardized, but it would take a long time.
In fact, Abhishek, just to add one note on it, typically outside and versus India, the difference is that outside they embrace technology, and here they consider technology as a baggage. That's the difference. So outside you'll always have a CIO with whom you can converse and basically bring the data into a common source of truth, maybe create a model around it, do some analytics on top of it, and that's where it's like a catch-22 situation. You have a CIO, that's why you embrace technology, and because you embrace technology, you grow and you grow and you grow. Here the problem is, because you don't have a CIO, because you don't embrace technology, you literally have a bottleneck. That's what Sir was saying, that you literally, it's a real difficult situation to breed in that fact that technology can help you. So I think that's the bottleneck that we all are facing in India versus outside.
I can agree with some of your observations, but as far as adoption of technology in India at scale is concerned, there are plenty of examples that we can see in public sector itself, right, where India has been one of the leaders. So perhaps it is sector specific for the kind of reasons that both of you mentioned.
No,
Vivek, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I kind of slightly disagree with Garvit here. So I think the adoption of technology is there, but it is forced by consumers. When consumers adopt something, a good example is payments, right? So after COVID, consumers adopted UPI payments like anything, right? And developers, because we work with developers, earlier developers, when they used to take payments, they would not accept online payments because of credit card charges and all. Everyone started accepting payments online, right? They started developing escrows. So when something is actually forced by consumers, and Indian consumers, as you rightly said, we are probably one of the leaders in financial systems. in payments technology, in other digital infrastructure around identity and KYCs and all. So when consumers force something to happen, all the industry stakeholders follow. Another example which I can think of is uh, during your registration process, right? If you see states like Maharashtra, the rent agreements, they have gone online, right? Because it was a joint effort by the government and the industry stakeholders that you, at least for the rent agreements, you don't need customers to go to a registrar office and sign the documents. So things like digital signatures have picked up tremendously in last few years, and I think industry is moving there, and as consumers adopt technology and they force the other stakeholders to follow.
Okay, so how about this? Since we see two slightly different points of views emerging here, from the point of view of a buyer, right now, if I want to buy, let's say, a residential property, here's what I will do. I will perhaps, in terms of my usage of technology as an average, home buyer, right? Although I don't have enough money to be able to buy a home at this point in time, but that's a different discussion altogether. So let's say I am looking at a property in Noida, right? What will I do? I will go on, a bunch of websites. I'll just compare, prices in various areas, whatever fits in my budget. I'm going to go there, visit, find out who's the developer. That's probably the extent to which I'll be using technology. So should, at this stage, developer can even feel incentivized to invest more in technology, because as a user, I am not using it beyond the point.
So let me first say that it was not a very different point of view. What I was trying to say is that till now, that's the observation. But I wanted to add that now India is moving in a different direction. Let me put it this way, because there are a lot of digital twin initiatives that are happening.
Absolutely,
in
UPI,
PSUs,
DigiYatra,
and
so
a
on.
lot of these things that are happening. Even in PSUs, I mean, government is taking a lot of initiative, thanks. I mean, we should be really happy that we are in an era where we are seeing the change. And the change is for good. Everybody's going through that. But, coming to your question, Abhishek, typically, if you kind of think of a buyer's point of view, he might go to different websites and look at things, right? But if the website itself is not rich enough, when I say rich enough in technology, I mean getting all the information about things, he might not be satisfied to go with a builder. Let me take an example. If you're trying to compare a DLF versus an ATS versus maybe another Pashmnath or something like that, you might come up with different aspects of how the information is really gathered on that website. So, as an investor or as a developer, I would still like to invest in it, because that's where I'm trying to gather more traffic onto my website when I give them that rich experience. See, end of the day, be it any industry, it is about customer experience. And customer experience, it gets enhanced when you have the digital assets and everything onto something which can be served to the customer right at the lead stage itself. So I think that's where, that impetus to invest in technology should happen, because the more you invest in technology and the more digitized your entire website is. See, today's customer is not naive. Today's customer is very, very tech savvy. Let's take an average customer. If you're not talking about the rural belt, we're still looking at an average customer. Because you mentioned Noida, that's why I'm taking that example. They definitely know what's happening. So I think if they invest into technology, into the different areas, they'll be able to gather more information and take better decisions. Because technology, we should remember, it's about intelligent insights and decisions.
Right.
That's what tech is.
You wanted to add something to that, Vivek?
Yeah, so if you look at a typical real estate sales, as you said, the search begins online. So you go on to different websites, you look at different properties, you shortlist a few, then you put an inquiry on the website. The inquiry comes to either the developer site or a company like ours, right? I'll give you an example how we are using technology in the entire sales process. So once the inquiry is generated on the website, so every call that our agent does is recorded, right? And we analyze each call, what happened on that call, what was the customer requirement, did the agent give the information properly. So all of that AI analysis we do on the calls, we gather customer requirements, and then we actually give him a set of recommendation based on our database. And then the journey actually moves offline after that, because the customer, when he actually shortlists a property, is going to visit some houses. So even those visits are being digitized, where what happened on that visit, with the camera analytics and with everything, with the voice analytics, what was the customer emotion. So all of that data gathers back to our CRM. Uh, See, property buying is a longest journey. So it goes up to sometimes 2 years, 3 years also. So maintaining that engagement with the customer during this journey, right? So he may not buy today, but he's actually interested in a property. He may not have a budget. He may not have a loan approved, right? So we make sure that the engagement is actually carried on during this journey. So we send them recommendation. We get his loan pre-approved based on CIBIL score. So all of those things we do with the help of technology. And when the transaction is closed, even during, as I said, e-payments, digital signature, escrows, all of these are managed through technology. And after purchase also, through our app, we manage the relationship where how the property prices in his locality or his projects are moving. So the journey is a mix of online, offline, then coming back online. But technology can help you engage.
So will it be
with
fair
your
to say
customer.
that from a developer's point of view in that case, strategic investment makes more sense instead of just going all in just because you've heard a fancy name, right? Some fancy piece of technology, and instead of going all in, wherever you're finding these applications, where you're finding that there's traction from the customer's point of view, that is where you should invest. So be more strategic, right?
No, I think buildings are no more reactive. They have to be predictive. Every building has to be predictive, whether you take it from the value chain perspective of your entire journey, or even if you look from the sales side. See, a sales mirror could be specific on the sales dynamics, the entire order to cash and lead to procurement and everything. But you think from the foundation perspective, that's where your entire technology plays a bigger game. So sales, we all know that, it is more of a touch and feel, and it might create the necessary traction for a buyer to really go and purchase, and they might want to look into it. But from a developer perspective, it is the other side of the fence. That is where the, focus is. And, we help digitize that entire thing, whether be it creating digital twins, I was talking, or getting your data in, or getting your analytics in, or even optimizing your labor, or optimizing your time, efficiency. There's so many parameters. So like I look at it as a very clear segregation that even at the foundational side, you need to have your tech in so that you can actually balance the entire
Okay, since
chain.
we're almost out of time, two quick questions.
Sure.
And I specifically want to talk to you about blockchain because Member of Parliament Raghav Chadha is going to be here tomorrow. So a little teaser for the audience present today. And of course, he started talking about the blockchain and how it can perhaps make the real estate transactions and records like a little more transparent and help the customers, etc. So specifically blockchain, what applications do you see at this point in time?
You want to go first?
Yeah. See, the biggest application is the title search or the title opinion. So when a property is transacted and a loan is sought on that property, so the banks, they require a chain of the transactions which happened on the property to establish the ownership of the property. So right now the process is that there is a technical consultant, a legal guy who actually checks and gives an opinion of the property title to the bank. I think that's a very easy thing to crack because government already has these records, but those records are stored in government registration databases which are not yet digitized, right? They are digitized, but they are in different languages, A khata, B khata. Every state has different variations. So it is very difficult to get a chain of records. So first thing, and because real estate is a state subject, every state implementation is different like RERA. So the first thing that blockchain could do is that it can standardize these transactions so that every transaction is recorded on the blockchain, and at a click of a button, you can actually validate whether who is the real owner of the property. Second could be valuation, right? To know the real valuation of the property, what are the transaction prices going on. Okay, so the block actually stores each transaction and its value, and you can establish a trend, how the prices have moved, and then forecast a new property price based on the existing data. So, and the third, which is the most real application of blockchain, is if you can see real estate is totally illiquid. You cannot buy chunks of real estate, right? So the real application of blockchain is when you can actually divide a 1,000 square feet property into chunks of, let's say, 10 square feet or 50 square feet. and you can offer these as individual transacting unit to the customers in, let's say, 1 lakh rupees or 50,000, or even like a mutual fund or a stock. So that is where when these transactions move on the blockchain and the transactions would be recorded, that is where the real estate would be actually be treated as a liquid asset, because those could be traded in a stock exchange, like what happened with the REIT.
Right.
So I think that's the real game changer of blockchain.
Garvit, quickly?
Quickly on that. See, first and foremost, blockchain is not cryptocurrency. That's what everybody kind of feels. The moment you see blockchain, it's crypto. No, it's not. It's about bringing in the data. It's about bringing in those sensors and collecting that information more transparently for you to actually utilize it. Like we always say, fix the foundation before the glam. So before the glam of all the AI and the IoT happens, you really need to fix your data. And blockchain actually comes into that area, because you're collecting information transparently, using it across the use cases that were mentioned. But according to me, blockchain would play a very pivotal role, because it will not only thread the line between the buyer and the developer, it will also kind of thread the line between the data and the front end, I would say, glamorous technologies that we all embrace and we would like to embrace in future.
All right. We're all looking forward to the kind of applications, some of which we have discussed in detail here. And on that note, we'd wrap this up. Thank you so much for this lovely conversation.
Thanks a lot.
you.
Thank you so much. Lovely being here.
Thank you so much.